Hi everyone, my name is David. I'm 37 years old, and this project that I'm calling His Witness was started the night that my ex-wife married her new husband. For a long time, I haven't really felt comfortable talking about my story, but a recent experience that happened this last year has changed the way that I approach this band and how I'm going to approach releasing the new music that we have coming up here. And that was the tragic loss of a childhood friend of mine. Um, Back in January, I had logged on to Facebook at the end of the day and was just scrolling through my news feed and happened to see this friend of mine who is typically pretty shy, kept to himself, was online and had just posted a long rant of sorts. And as I started reading it, my heart sank because I realized that it was a suicide note. He talked about how his wife had left him, and as he got depressed, as people do in those types of situations, and then what he was describing in this note was she was trying to use his mental health against him to keep him away from his kids. Now, I don't know the specifics of the situation. I only know what he put on his note. But I remember two things. I messaged him right away, and I could see that the message went through, but that he didn't see it. And then I, unfortunately, found out the horrible news that he had taken his own life. And in that moment, I felt two things. I felt like I could relate with where he was at, feeling trapped and feeling like he was all alone. And then the other thing that I thought was I felt guilty that I hadn't talked more about my own life, because I thought maybe if he had heard someone else who'd been through similar situations, that maybe he would have felt some hope and wouldn't have felt so alone and so trapped. And for a while I thought about just talking about him and leaving him nameless, but the thing that really struck me at his funeral was, as I was reading through and seeing all the dates of when he went to school match up with mine, and when he was confirmed and when he graduated grade school and high school, the thing that really hit home is his name is my name. His name is David. And so all the way through, it was as if I was at my own funeral. And as I watched his mom follow the casket of her son out of the funeral home, I thought, how in the world did this happen? And is there anything that could be done? So that's why I want to start being more open and talking about my own life in hopes that it'll help someone else. It'll also help me. So I want to be David's voice, my voice, his witness. Kind of transitioning now and talking about how I plan to release some of the new music that we have. I want to talk to you about how there's always the known and the unknown. Starting out with our brains, we have one side of our brain that's in charge of all of the analytical, logistical, all the facts that we've come to process, and those are known facts that we keep. And if you're doing your homework, that's the side of your brain that you are recalling information from. Then you have the other side of your brain that's more creative and free-flowing and is taking in new information, and you're always checking those against each other, the new information, the unknown versus the known, and that keeps things in balance. Time. There's always the past and things that we've experienced, and the known leading up to the present, which is always leading us into the unknown until we reach death, which is the great unknown. Our political system, we have the GOP, or the Grand Old Party, the Conservative Party, which is the way things have been done, traditional. We feel safe with that. And then there's the Liberal Progressive Party that's always pushing the boundaries and looking for new ways that they can help people. And we have checks and balances with those two that ideally they're supposed to stay in check and keep each other balanced. Moms and dads, we come from our mothers, from their womb. They nurture us and keep us safe, especially in the early years of our life. What little kid wouldn't prefer to go by as mommy? But then we have dads and the research that supports things like rough and tumble play, and dads help us push our boundaries and learn our boundaries and push us into finding our own identities and our own path in the world. And so the two of them are designed to work together to keep checks and balances. Abraham was called to go from a land that he knew into a land that God was going to show him. Going all the way back to the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve started out in the garden, and then God sent them out to be fruitful and multiply across the whole earth. We start out in a church, a family of believers, and then we're called to go out to the ends of the earth. Like Acts 1 verse 8 is the passage that our name comes from, and it says, "You will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes on you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem and in all Judea and Samaria and to the ends of the earth." So that's one of the passages that's leading our new focus. I want to go back and talk about the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve, there wasn't 10 commandments in the garden, there was just one, because they didn't have to be told not to murder or steal. They just had to be told one law, God's law, either follow me or not. You can have everything in this garden that I've given you. And in fact, God had even included Adam on creating his world by letting him name the animals. It was like a dad bringing his kid to work day. So he said, "I've made all of this for you. It's yours to rule, and you can even help me create it. But just don't eat of the one tree." And before they fell into sin, Adam and Eve were fully known to each other to the point where they were laid completely bare, naked, and felt no shame, no insecurity, no guilt, no greed, no lust. But then as soon as they reached and committed the one sin, all sin came in that moment. All the malice, all the lust, all the greed, all the insecurity. And instantly they wanted to cover themselves up and go hide from God. And that's what they tried to do. They were no longer fully known to each other. Their sin made them feel exposed. And that even comes out when God asks Adam, "Where were you?" And he says, "I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid." And God asks, "Who told you that you were naked?" So sin keeps us from wanting to be fully known to each other and in the light. Like I said, I've had not only the experience with my friend David, but others over this last year that have encouraged me to try and take that brave step of being fully known and saying to those around me, "This is me, this is all of me. There's some good, there's some bad, there's some ugly, but this is everything." And again, my hope with this is that it will help me just stay alive and continue on with my life, give a voice to any of those who've struggled in the past or are struggling right now, and hopefully just encourage anyone who's going through any type of similar situations to feel that they're not alone, that they're not isolated, that there's always hope through Christ Jesus. The last thing that I want to talk to you about is a passage in Ephesians. It's in Ephesians 5:18 and 19, I believe, and it says, "Do not get drunk on wine, which leads to debauchery. Instead, be filled with the Spirit, speaking to one another with psalms, hymns, and songs from the Spirit." One of the bands that I like a lot is One Republic, and I heard an interview with Ryan Tedder, this lead singer-songwriter from that group, talking about this songs from the Spirit idea. Writing songs that are from the eyes of faith, but don't come right out and necessarily say Jesus or God in them. Up until now, this project, we've been mostly on the hymns and psalms side. We've written a couple original hymns, and psalms I would equate to songs of praise, like our song Light of the World or Captivated that we put out on our last Champions album. But this Songs from the Spirit is a new, intriguing way to reach people for me. I've worked with people and have known other people who have been hurt by people who claim to be religious leaders. And I know there's many people out there who may have experienced some type of trauma. And when they hear anything having to do with church or, unfortunately, even Jesus or God, a little bit of a wall goes up. And it's like, how do you reach those people? And Bono from U2 actually was the one who inspired this Ryan Tedder from One Republic to start writing in a way that was a little bit more implicit, that would reach a broader audience in hopes to reach people that up until now were unreachable. So we're going to be doing that with 2 new songs that we're going to be releasing here soon. The next one I can tell you the name of is Don't Fit the Box, Get It Out. And that music video will be coming out hopefully within the next 2 weeks. And after that, we have another song coming out later. I'll be putting out a video like this before we release each new song. I'm going to be telling my story. in the next video before we release our next song, The Great Unknown. And in tandem with that, I also would like to start a podcast called Fundamental Questions of Being. And the point of this is to have a long-form discussion with not only people who claim to have the same beliefs as what I do, but especially those who don't. I feel that we all have a lot to learn from each other. I don't think any man-made institution on earth has it exactly right, and we're all trying to do our best in this life and find the truth. I'm a seeker of truth, and I love more than anything talking to other people about their spiritual journeys, where they started, how they got where they're at now, and why, and just hearing their story and their life. And maybe in them sharing their story with me, I can gain some wisdom and growth, and vice versa. So that's the goal here with this whole approach, trying to reach people, trying to broaden the way that we write creatively and artistically, but most of all just to lead other people to Christ and share our stories with each other so that we can encourage each other and be more fully known and in the light. So thank you so much for listening. We hope that you'll stick around for this journey, and look forward to talking to you again soon. Thank you. Bye.